Hi, friends. All right, I have tried to record this 3 times and I fucked it up twice. And the last time I didn't finish, I don't know what happened. We're gonna do it again. All right, welcome to the first book review. Very quickly, my book reviews are not going to be just is this book good or bad. I'm a reader and a writer, so everything I talk about will be in the context of being those two things at the same time. Um, y'all know me. Get your headphones, get your kids out the room. I'm gonna say bad words. That's just what it is. So, this time we're gonna be talking about the homie Gabino Iglesias and his latest book, The Devil Takes You Home. I need to tell y'all first, I love his work. I fucking love it. And here's why I love it. Now, most of his work, I would say, if you were not into violence, if that skeeves you out, if the creepy, not quite like monster horror, but creepy, horror-y, if you're not into that, you might not dig his fiction. But we'll talk about some of the other stuff he writes because I really believe that one of the best things you can do as a reader is explore the work of authors who write things that might not be your cup of tea, if that makes sense. All right. So, sorry, that was gross. Gabino. I've been familiar with his work for a while. I don't remember, and I know it's going to sound a little name droppy if you're in lit circles, but I think that I became familiar with his work either through these are both other writers, Joe Clifford or maybe Jerry Stahl. One of the two of them, I'm pretty sure. And the first book of his I read, fucking phenomenal. I will link the written review below. Blew me away. It's really, really beautiful. And I want to distill a little bit what I love about Gabino's work and what keeps me coming back. When you, as a reader, one of the things that will make me love the work of an author is writers who are able to write about things, subject matter that is fucking terrible. Violence is terrible. Murder is terrible. These are things that are in his work as a whole in his fiction, and then in the book that we're talking about, The Devil Takes You Home, it's horror, it's crime, it's grimy as fuck, and it is in fact scary. I will tell you that up front. If you're a person who is intimidated by Spanish, like conversational Spanish in books, you're gonna feel away. I feel like it's work that's worth powering through that if you have troubles with Spanish. If you use a Kindle and you're connected to the internet, you can look it up. It's not a big deal. But what I love about Gabino's work, and it's very present throughout his fiction, is that he has such a beautiful way of talking about either the violent acts, witnessing the acts, the emotionality, the bodies. There's a very deep elegance to his prose that makes reading the terrible thing not better, maybe, but more pleasant, you could say. It's just something that I, as a reader, as far back as being like 8 or 9 years old, when I started reading adult novels, the things that bothered me the most were the things I loved to read the most because they're written really well. And that's just something about Gabino's work that I, as a reader and as a writer, absolutely cherish. You cannot tell me that as I'm reading something, if the situation is something really disgusting, and in this particular book, there are a few parts that I was just like, oh, that's gross. But it was written so beautifully, I read the passages several times. Take that as you will. This book in particular, The Devil Takes You Home. In this book, we have our main. I'm gonna try really hard not to do spoilers. I'm gonna try. So this is gonna come across a little vague because I don't want to spoil it. But this book opens with a fucking gut punch. Like, if you like to get punched in the face by your fiction, you should read this book. The book starts out with an absolute tragedy. Like, I got to that part and I was like, bro, what the fuck? It was really good. And then after the tragedy, we start to move into the horror. Now, structurally, I found that to be a brilliant position, especially with this story in particular, to start it at such an emotionally vulnerable and painful and emotionally bloody place. When you start there, y'all, he does not let up on the gas pedal. It's not a big book, thank God. Because I don't think that emotionally I would be okay with that for a longer period of time. I absolutely highly recommend this book. I highly recommend Gabino's work. Another thing about this book in particular that I found really valuable, if you are, especially if you're a white person, if you have not read a lot of writers of color, read his work. And there are going to be things that, as a white reader, you are not going to understand. Like, and I'm not saying that you're not there. It won't make sense to you logically. It won't make sense to you emotionally because you don't have a cultural connection, and that's okay. You can still enjoy a book that you can't picture yourself in. You can be strictly the observer as a reader and not, the main character. And I think that if more people let themselves be open to that experience, I think a lot of, especially white readers, would have a very wider array of books to choose from. And if you like horror, if you like noir, if you want to read some that's not by a white guy, read his work. What else? What else I want to say? I feel like I'm just going to keep saying it's really fucking good because it was really fucking good. One of the things that I really appreciate about Gabino's work is that he has a very good understanding of pacing. The pacing in the book and in his previous books is done so well that there are points in the book where you're kind of getting emotionally bogged down because the main character is having feelings, and then some of the other characters are having feelings. And then when you think about what's going on at the beginning of the book, it's really a lot. But because Gabino is very skilled at bringing the reader from emotion to emotion into the action, it doesn't read too slow, it doesn't read too fast. None of the events in the book feel super abrupt. From a craft standpoint, I think it's so good. I just want to fight. I want to fight. Like, it's so good. And for me, that's like the highest of praise. When I look at other writers, or I'm reading a book, or I'm looking at something, and I think about you on a personal level and I want to throw it at your face, it's cute aggression, which is just how I operate. I highly recommend this book. And I feel like if you are the type of person that doesn't read a lot of horror, this is not entry-level work. Don't read it. But Gabino is also a very prolific writer about the craft. And I hate saying it like that because it sounds pretentious, but you'll have to excuse me. I'm doing stuff, but as a person in the community of writers, Gabino, I think, is a very stand-up fucking person. Gabino promotes other writers, and if you're not a writer, I know some of you might be rolling your eyes, but the reality is, if you want to sell one book, you have to do this. You have to go out there with other writers. You have to beg people to share your links. You have to be successful. And the fact that even in this day and age, when social media is the way that it is, he's one of those people that I'll link as much his socials and some of his other work below, but if you go, you're gonna discover something cool to read because he also has good taste. So I follow Gabino on the socials. Go read some of his work at Lit Reactor. Gabino teaches classes. If you can see him read, go see him read. I'm in. I'm all in. I'm a fucking fan. Like, this is the type of work that makes me enjoy writing horror and crime and that shit. Like, knowing that he exists makes me happy to exist in the same sphere. So that's what it is. There's your book review. Sweet. It was under 20 minutes. I talk so fucking much because I really enjoyed the book, and when I enjoy things, I want to tell you about it. But I will try to keep these a little bit shorter. So there you have it. There's your first book review. I'm gonna give this book like a full 8 out of 10, and I'm only giving it an 8 because the ending had me fucked up. Gabino, sir, you and your fucking endings, I will fight you. You hurt my feelings, but I love you anyway.